that is there to help you spot some of the animals you might find out here on the reserve today.
Right now,
of course, due to the time of day and migration patterns, we're not guaranteed to see everything, but we do typically have some pretty decent luck, especially on a beautiful day like this. We're going to go ahead and hang tight here for just another couple seconds so this truck in front of us can at a safe distance ahead for us to go ahead and proceed. While we're doing so, is it anybody's first safari out here today ever? What? Couple people. Hi friends, welcome aboard. It's everybody else, hello and welcome back. We're going to go ahead and start our journey here together in the Little Ituri Forest. You're going to want to keep your eyes sharp because this forest is full of some pretty dense vegetation. All of the animals that we'll find in this area tend to rely pretty heavily on their camouflage as their main defense against their predators. So you can think of them as the ultimate hide-and-seek champs. These animals like to hide and are very, very good at it. We're going to talk about that animal that's over on the hill to our right-hand side first. Very different looking animal back by that fence line. It's called an okapi. Now that okapi's got the head and the neck of a giraffe, stripes like a zebra, but don't let her party pants fool you because they are not related to the zebra at all. They're actually the only known relative to the giraffe. They've got the same skull structure. Male okapi actually have ossicones on top of their head just like a giraffe. They also have the same long prehensile tongue. I know. Whoa. It's kind of a big word, right? Well, prehensile just means finger-like. It means that it can wrap around or grab something just like our hands. So remember that word, prehensile. It'll likely come up again a little bit later on. Up on the hill to our right-hand side here, find a really tall white and black bird called a saddle-billed stork. Oh, there's two of them. Perfect. They can grow to be about 5 feet tall, have a wingspan of about 9 feet wide. If you take a look above your head, it's about as wide as the canopy is up there. Now, the reserve has one male and one female. We can tell the difference pretty easy by the color of their eyes. So the female was the first one that we saw. She's got a really bright golden color, while this male here has a darker brown. Now, they do mate for life, so you'll likely never see more than 2 of them at a time. And unlike a lot of the birds that you are probably used to seeing and hearing in your everyday lives, these saddle-billed stork lack vocal cords, so in order to communicate, they'll rattle their beaks. Ooh, a couple of antelope up on the hill here to our left. Some beautiful copper-colored antelope called bongos. The bongos are also nicknamed the ghosts of the forest. You'll also find some tall tan antelope out here called the greater kudu, one of the tallest antelope in Africa, growing to be about 55 inches tall. And that's just about everything that you can find out here in the forest area. So we're going to leave, and as we do, we are crossing over some maji, which is Swahili for water. And that means we're coming up on a larger water source. Geographically speaking, we should be somewhere near the Safi River. If you take a look around you, you can actually watch as this vegetation starts to change too. And then once we reach the river, take a look down into the water for some bubbles or ripples. You never know what might be hanging out down here. Oh, I do see a lot of really large white and gray birds up ahead here to our right. These are called pink-backed pelicans. They get their name from the pink coloring that appears below their wings and, you guessed it, on their backs during mating season. It's almost like they're blushing. Very colonial nesters too, so typically around that time you'll find them in really, really large groups, sometimes even numbers up to about 500 at a time. Ooh, lots of movement in the river here to our left. We're looking for a hippo right down here to our left. I'm hoping she'll poke her nose. Yeah, there we go. Watch her nostrils. So cool.
Can you see it?
Hippos typically spend most of their day completely submerged underwater. They can do that for several minutes at a time thanks to those nostrils that we just saw. You can kind of see they're set toward the top of their nose, and they can completely seal them off, meaning they will take a really deep breath right before they go down, close their nose completely, head underneath the water, and because of that, they can spend so much time down there, they can even sleep underneath the water. Now raise your hand if you've ever heard a hippo make a sound. Ooh, not a lot of these. Okay, the official term for their vocalization pattern, get this, it's called a wheeze honk. Yeah, it's a real word. It's a real funny word. But honestly, I think it sounds kind of like the word. To me, it reminds me a little bit of a donkey, but with more grunting. So imagine that, of course, coming from a hippo. They tend to get pretty vocal more toward the evening time or when it cools down enough for them to journey out of the water on the lake and find some food. Ooh, on the bank of the river, kind of toward the rock wall, to our left-hand side, you'll find a Nile crocodile. Might see him a little bit better as we go over this bridge, which is going to be so just make sure we stay seated. Thank you so much. That does include small children. Everybody can stay fully seated. Thank you so much. The Nile crocodile can grow to be between 16 and 20 feet long. To put that into perspective for you, that's about as long as a giraffe is tall. Now, when it gets really warm out here, you'll often find them laying on the bank of that river with their mouths hanging wide open. Sometimes even slowly flapping their jaws open and close, and that just allows them to regulate their body temperature. When they're on land like that, they can also run up to speeds of about 10 miles an hour, while good old Simba, one here, goes a whopping 8. But if you take a look around you again, it looks like this vegetation is changing, which means we are coming up on another ecosystem. Over here on our right, you'll find yourself next to a very large, very different looking tree called the baobab tree, also known as the upside down tree. Now, its branches will go leafless like this for about 9 months out of the entire year. And during those 9 months, it's saving water in its trunk for the hot and the dry season so that the animals out here have access to some source of water, which is why that tree is also nicknamed the Tree of Life. Now, my friends, the baobab tree also marks our entrance into this new ecosystem known as the savanna. Of course, home to some of Africa's more famous animals. Go ahead and take a look out to your left. I know some of these bushes are a little tall right now, but even so, this right here, it's my favorite view of the entire reserve. Because no matter what time of day, and no matter the weather, it's just always so incredibly beautiful. Now, my friends, it is views like this that are the reasons reserves like this are established, so that we can research, preserve, protect, and educate about every living thing that you will see out here today, whether that's the animal, their homes, or maybe even just the wildlife around them. Now, even from here, I see so many really cool things. They kind of are scattered farther up the savanna. That's very good for us, because that means we'll be able to spend a little bit of time with each and every one of them. Now, we just passed a cow with really long horns, so the rest of the herd is a little bit farther up ahead. So we'll talk about them in just a minute. There's a den over here to our left. Oh, and running around in the grass, straight out to our left-hand side. Small pack of African painted dogs. Super, super cute animals these painted dogs are, but as cute as they are, terrifying. But in the coolest way. They actually have one of the highest hunting success rates in all of Africa. With the hunting success rate so high, those cute little animals back there, they're actually better hunters than lions and cheetahs. Keep looking out to your left. Beautiful dark brown antelope with long curved horns out here. These are called the sable antelope, which are the official emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Personally, I like to think it's because they signify strength. They're the only type of antelope that will turn around and fight back when it comes to their predators. I just think that is the coolest thing. Now, I know I said we were going to talk about those cows in a few minutes because the rest were farther up ahead. We're going to go and talk about them now because it looks like there are quite a few animals kind of grouped up around the same spot. So we're going to go ahead and start naming them, talking about them as we go, so we can just kind of enjoy the view when we get there. Now, again, the cows with the really long horns are called the Ankole cattle. They're also known as the Watusi cattle. They're named after the Watusi tribe that first domesticated them. And they're one of the only 2 domesticated animals that you'll find on this entire reserve. Now, when they're fully grown, their horns are pretty long and they look like they should be pretty thick and heavy, but they are a honeycomb-like structure on the inside, which means they're really, really light. With blood vessels that run all the way to the tippy top of those horns, and that's what they will use as their cooling system. Lots of giraffe up on top of that hill out to our left-hand side as well. I see quite a few of them hiding in the trees. We're going to get really close to these Ankole cattle on our right, as well as some wildebeest, which are the gray animals that you see spread all the way across the savanna. And they are one of those animals that really like to spread themselves out, so we'll likely get a few different chances to see them. Now, wildebeest have one of the largest migrations, migrating about 500 to 1,000 miles per year, and in herds of up to 1.5 million at a time in something known as the Great Migration. Now, we did just pass that giraffe over to our left. There are a couple more of them up on top of the hill to our left here. You can just kind of see them through the trees. But there are a lot more than just 3 of them, so I'm hoping we'll find the rest of the tower on the other side of these hills. Tower is the group name for Twiga. Twiga is Swahili for giraffe. All of the giraffe that you'll find out here, they are Maasai giraffe, and we can tell because of their really jagged edge pattern. Just like our fingerprints, no 2 patterns are ever the same. They're all extremely unique, and that actually goes for the stripes of a zebra as well. And when they're born at about 6 feet tall, but they can grow to be between 18 and 20 feet, give or take about 1.5 feet for their tongue. It's again what we call a prehensile tongue, and their tongues are long enough to where they can clean their ears, lick their eyeballs, and pick their nose. Yeah, delicious, right? Now, a lot like my toddlers, they also spend most of their day eating, and that's why you'll find that their tongues are purple and mucus coated. The theory is they spend so much time outside of their mouths, it aids them in not getting sunburned. Alright, we're gonna make a really big turn here. It's gonna be a little bumpy, so hang on tight for me. It's looking a little quiet on this far part of the savannah here. It looks like a lot of those animals are kind of grouped up more toward the beginning. Really cool view of the savannah if you look back and to your right, though. Really, really pretty. Passing through 2 more baobab trees on either side of us, and a really large clearing up ahead here to our left. So this means we're looking for a bigger animal, an animal that we like to call the bulldozers of the savannah. Lots of knocked over trees and big clearings like this are some great indications that we might be getting close to Tembo country. Tembo is Swahili for elephant, so keep your eyes out.
That's what we had the little baby out.
Ooh, up ahead here on our left-hand side, I see a whole flamboyance of greater flamingo. Flamboyance is the group name, and greater flamingo is the lightest in color of the flamingo species. When they hatch, they actually hatch gray, and they get their pink coloring as they grow from their diet that mostly consists of brine shrimp, which is of course full of beta-carotene and what gives them that beautiful pigmentation. Although they grow pretty quickly, they won't actually get their full pink coloring or reach maturity until almost 2 years old. So until then, they'll just kind of continue to grow, looking like really light colored flamingos with a lot of gray on their heads, their beaks, and their backs still. Let's see a ton of movement in these parts right off. I'm going to point something out to you though that might be just a little bit weird, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'll tell you what. As we make this next big turn and come around this grassy area, take a look at this mud pit over here to our left, specifically the whole side closest to us. There are a couple of really big, kind of fresh looking indentations from a larger animal. And knowing where we are on the reserve, that tells me that there are probably some white rhinos around here, and we're close pretty recently. So typically bigger animals, like elephants and rhinos, will use dirt, mud, and hay to protect their skin from the sun. Obviously, rhinos don't have trunks like the elephants do to throw it onto themselves, so they will quite literally just flop down and roll around in mud pits like this instead. Coats their skin, gives them an extra layer of protection from the sun. When it dries, it makes it look kind of orange. Promise you there's no such thing as an orange rhino. However, there's a whole crash of white rhinos out here, and hopefully we will find them on the other side of these hills. In the meantime, crossing in front of us, she's just moving over to our left-hand side, you'll find an ostrich. Now, ostrich is the largest species of bird. You can kind of see she's got pretty big wings, right? But as big as those wings are, they can't fly. They can, however, run up to speeds of about 40 miles an hour, and they'll do that with their wings straight out to their side so that they're able to change direction while they're running. Up on the hill to our left here, you're going to find 2 cheetahs. One of them was just rolling around on her back a little bit. But cheetahs are the fastest land mammal. They can run up to speeds of about 60 miles an hour. Only for a couple hundred yards or in short bursts though. So if they're hunting or chasing after something, they tend to have to time it out pretty perfectly. The Swahili word for cheetah is duma, and a very common misconception, this one blew my mind. Cheetahs are not actually considered big cats. That's crazy, right? There is a lot of criteria that goes into why, but the main reason is that they can't roar. They have a lot of different vocalization patterns, but they mainly purr, chirp, and meow, a lot like a house cat.
Yep.
A really tall rock structure over here to our left-hand side. This is called a kopie. Kopie is typically the perfect place to find larger predators. Gives them a little bit of a height advantage. They're able to get up on top of these rocks. Ooh, make sure they can see everything that's going on down and around below them. We got really
There he is, hanging off.
We're gonna get in the shade here. There, look up on the kopie rocks to our left. There are 3 lions.
Look at him laying there.
Now I gotta tell you, you're really lucky to be able to see these lions.
We normally
right now
don't
this
see
time
them
of
like
day.
that.
Lions are what we call crepuscular animals. That means they're active during the dawn and the dusk. They do actually spend between 16 and 20 hours a day doing exactly what they're doing right now. Sleeping. And usually around this time of day, especially when it's bright and sunny out here, they do a lot of their sleeping in the shade of the kopie. They do get very, very tricky to spot. Now typically the lioness are the ones that will go out and do all of the hunting, while the male will stay back, watch over, and protect their pride. A pride is a group of lions. Now this was all 3 of the lions that the reserve has. There are 2 lioness and a male. The male's obviously the one with the mane, although he might look a little bit different than what you're probably used to seeing in a male lion, and that's because they're really young. So they are all siblings, and they just turned 3 years old back in September. So his mane will obviously grow thicker, darker, and a whole lot longer as he grows and becomes more mature as well. Now there were some antelope hiding. Oh yeah, there's one hiding in the trees, straight out to our right in the middle, and then one laying down in the grass over here too. So these dark brown shaggy antelope, cute little heart-shaped noses, white rings around their backsides. These are called waterbuck. One of the very few non-migratory species of antelope, meaning once they find a spot that they feel safe, happy, and comfortable, they're going to stay there for as long as they can. And just as their name sounds, will always be near a permanent water source. That coat secretes a very oily substance that keeps them somewhat water resistant, and that's actually what they'll use in order to evade their predators. I can't stop for them, but down on the ground to our right, there's also a small clutch of ostrich eggs. I didn't see any ostrich, or we saw ostrich first when we first came into this part of the savanna. Like we said, ostrich is the largest species of bird, so naturally their eggs are pretty big. Each one of those ostrich eggs weigh about 3 pounds each. But we're crossing into the final part of the reserve here. It's called the Glen, which is where the warden's post is located. Also home to some Nigerian dwarf goats, which are miniature goats from West Africa. In their area, they are raised as pets, but mostly for their milk production. Their milk is extremely high in the nutrients the villagers would typically have to rely on the wildlife rather to get. But since they have the milk, they no longer have to do so. So once again, it protects the wildlife and gives the villagers another source of income, another pretty amazing win-win for everybody. Unfortunately, though, the warden's post also marks an end to our journey together through the reserve, so I do have to head back to the village. We saw a ton of really cool things out here today, though, and I hope you were able to learn something new, whether it be about a new animal, your favorite animal homes, or even some conservation efforts in place to protect them. A wise man once said, you may have heard about conservation. Well, it is not just the business of a few of us, it is a matter that concerns all of us. And that man, my friends, was Walt Disney. And he's so
Thank you guys for watching this safari ride at Walt Disney World. I will hope you have a good day. Please like and subscribe.